He's aggressive head rolls. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Nahisi.
Joined by your co-host Mo. What is up, people?
And thank you guys so much for tuning in for episode 9. If you are on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you are listening anywhere where podcasts can be streamed, be sure to rate the show 5 stars and also be sure to subscribe as well. Once again, thank you guys so much for your support over, this period of time, and we do this for you guys, and we're really appreciative. We've been growing so much, and we owe it all to you guys. Shout outs to everyone who popped out onto the spaces this past weekend for Night of Champions, as well as AEW Double or Nothing, even though we should have done a watch along for Battleground, but that we're going to get to later in the show.
And shout out to Zaire for taking over for my drunk ass because a bitch blacked out. I didn't even know he came in. He told me.
I literally got into the space. Mo wasn't there, and then I just see Zaire, and I was like, "Well, here comes the cavalry." And so, but yeah, shout out to Zaire for taking over, and thank you guys so much for tuning into these spaces. Before we get into anything, we have to send our congratulations to Ty Conti and Alexa Bliss. Both this past weekend announced that they are expecting children. So a big congratulations to Ty Conti, Sammy Guevara, as well as Alexa Bliss and the Disney husband, whose name I currently forget.
Shout out to Ryan for inspiring Alexa Bliss to take her first and last bump.
But yeah, big shout out to them. And we we send them all the love and hope that they both have healthy deliveries and healthy and safe pregnancies. But we're gonna get right into the show because this past weekend was pretty loaded with shows, and we're gonna start with Night of Champions. So this past Sunday, obviously WWE was in Saudi Arabia for another Saudi show, which was Night of Champions, and this time it felt like a loaded card. So many matches, so many little juicy tidbits, and I kind of wanted to get your impressions on everything that was happening at Night of Champions. And yeah, let's just talk about that. What was happening at Night of Champions?
Oh my god! If NXT didn't happen, it definitely wouldn't have been the talk of the whole entire weekend because that pay-per-view was actually too good. I didn't expect it to be that good. I really did not. Everything was perfectly timed. I think the order of the matches was perfect. It was definitely shocking. A lot of swerves happened during that whole pay-per-view. And it was to me a damn near perfect show. I'm not sure if you agree with it, but considering the lineup of all the pay-per-views that we had, that definitely blew AEW out of the water. Hunter was very calculated during this pay-per-view, and I almost felt like he was listening to us because, bitch, I won a little bit. All right, y'all heard me bitch about Nanny. I went to go pee while y'all was in the space, came back. I didn't even get to come back, actually. I don't think I got to hit the flush. And I heard the bell. I was like, this is perfect. Ow. From top to bottom, left to right. It is perfect. What was your impressions?
So I agree with you. I think this was the perfect show. I think that this and Mania Night 1 were probably the best shows of the year thus far.
Mm-hmm.
As far as premium live events, like you said, there were a lot of surprises, a lot of swerves. Obviously, the bloodline kind of ending of the show was absolutely perfect.
Shit was
And
cold.
seeing them unravel gradually in each show. It's each premium live event, something serves as a major turning point. I think is just a testament to how beautiful this storyline is. Like the Jimmy super kick, him looking at Jay feeling torn, and just seeing member after member kind of head out of there. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that the Zoe Stark surprise was definitely a big surprise for me. I was not expecting Zoe Starks at all for anything. Um, but I felt like that those were really good surprises at the end of the show as far as Zoe, as far as the bloodline.
How about that
And there,
opener?
oh my God, AJ and Seth. It was everything we wanted it to be. It was everything we wanted it to be. It was a solid in ring classic. Um, I think that the right person won. I'm glad that Seth won the world title. I think he is a perfect inaugural champion, especially if he's going to be on Raw. There's so many matchups that I cannot wait for. Him and Finn are like at the top of my list, but
Dude, that belt
there's
grew on me. Seeing on
it did,
Monday wrapped around Seth. It
and
looks
you know
so
what
good
it
on
is?
him. Okay.
I think and that was I was about to say something about the belt too. I feel like we looked at the belt, and because it wasn't on a person, it was like, this is not good looking. But like after seeing it on Seth, it's like, okay, they knew what they were doing. This looks good. I was gonna ask your
Yeah.
impressions about that Seth and AJ match though.
Oh no, that match was fucking amazing. Like it was so good to the point that my drunk ass off tequila was like so like focused. Like y'all was going off on the space about something, but I was locked in on this match because like I don't know, it's one of those matches where I'm not sure how many times they did verse each other, but like it's like two perfect wrestlers. Like you could have had a
Yeah,
more perfect situation than Seth and AJ, and I loved it. I love the pacing. I love how they gave this match just like the time that it deserved. You know what I mean? Considering that it's going to be a big title on the show obviously, and you know that Roman's not going to give up the main event spot. So I feel like putting in the beginning was an excellent idea, even though some people think that it should have just went on at the end. No, honestly, I think it was the perfect opener. Great fucking match. I even liked the ending to it. My corny ass even popped for the pedigree. I was like, like Hunter had to get that one in there. And he
of
came
course.
out and he hugged Seth like he was his son. And it was just like a moment. It was just like a moment. And you know, you saw it in Seth's eyes that like he worked his ass off for moments like this. And it's crazy because Seth's been around for like over a decade. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? But he's like, to me, he's kind of like the guy, you know?
yeah,
Like, it's interesting to see the way they book him and Roman. You got like the stories coming out of Roman in terms of just like everything that pertains to being like, as you say, like the overall perfect wrestler. Like Steph got that. Like he's putting over people, he's putting over this belt. And like you said, I'm just excited for like the future matchups that they have going on and going forward. What were your impressions about this match?
So I think it was. I think I already gave mine. I think it was a great match. But what I was gonna say was the callback at the end of that world title match when Seth and Hunter were in the ring. I noticed that it was a callback to when Seth won the NXT championship
Oh, I didn't catch
because
that.
when Seth became the first NXT champion, the two people that were out in the ring were Triple H and Dusty. And so
Oh
that kind of
wow.
was like a damn moment for me because it was like seeing Hunter there and Seth there reminded me of that moment, but it also was just like, damn, Dusty would have been right there
That
had
shit was cool.
I think it was super. I think it was super duper tough. So I really, 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 really like that match. Um, as far as like, I was gonna ask you because I don't think we got to go through every single match, but I just wanted to touch on some key moments. Um, how did you feel about Sammy and him introducing himself in Arabic and him wearing the
That was so fucking cool. I was not expecting that. And like I love the way he just piped Paul Heyman the fuck up with it. And he
right?
got the crowd going. And it threw me off too because there was so much controversy about like allowing Sammy to do these type of shows. And it's just like this guy is such a baby face wherever he goes. The crowd ate that the fuck up. I loved it. It was such a Sammy thing to do, but I didn't like expect him to actually like do that. Like that was not like in the realm of my consciousness of like possibilities what's going to happen while Sammy's here. So I thought that was super duper cool. It made for a funny but like very interesting moment. He's so cultured. I love him so much. He's great. Um, I want to get my opinions for like the match, but I want to hear what you have to say about Sammy.
So I think it was a beautiful moment, and there was a point in time during the show where um they kind of not panned the camera, but the camera was on Roman as Sammy came in the ring and Roman was smiling. And I
Mhm.
was like, it's genius because it could be a sarcastic smile, but I feel like Roman was legitimately happy for Sammy. Because like you think about it, like he wasn't able to do these type of shows because of just the controversy surrounding it, him being Muslim. I think he just kind of wanted to stay out of that area considering all the conflicts that were happening. But to see him in that gear, you know, in the main event, wrestling alongside his best friend, that's a moment. You know what I mean? And that's the type of stuff that you get into the industry for. And even with that, him introducing himself in Arabic, I thought was just like a really amazing touch. And I just thought it was really, really dope. And I think it was a really special moment. But that's how I felt about like that moment. But I guess the match is is you know what we definitely want to touch on. So I was gonna ask you, how did you feel about the match?
Match was fucking amazing. Just gonna skip to the whole um pivotal point that happened because I just thought the setup of it was just perfect. Um, with the way the Usos try to one last time, despite the fact they've been degraded leading up to this moment. You know, they tried helping, they end up knocking out Solo. Roman's pissed about it. Now he's pressing them. I think he mushed Jimmy or something like that. And
He
then
mushed
Jay's
Jay.
trying to calm him down. What happened?
He mushed. I think he mushed Jimmy first, and then he mushed Jay. Yeah.
Yeah. But then like he's like, "Why are you touching me, bro? Why are you touching me?" And then Jimmy just saves him. And like the little the attention to detail is so cool because they still keep up with the idea that Jay has like Stockholm syndrome ever since Hell in the Cell. And like he's
Yeah.
literally still like while Jimmy's talking to him, he keeps looking at Roman like, no, you gotta like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? We gotta fix this. We gotta undo this. We gotta be loyal to him. And like Jimmy's like talking at him. It's like, no, like we got each other. This man just basically said fuck us for like the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Like we're non-factors to him. Like we came into this world together. We might as well leave in this world together. We already lost one brother. I'm not gonna lose you, bro. You
Right.
know, I love like just the passion that went into that one little moment before he's just like, we should have done this a long time ago. I got you. And he just super kicked him. Like my jaw dropped to the floor when that happened. I was like, what? What? Because we were all waiting just to see how this would happen. And then it
Yeah.
happened. And then like it just like kind of begs the question because there's so much um like pipelines going on between this whole deterioration thing because obviously, yeah, is Roman versus the Usos. But now you're also left with Solo too, because Roman talked all this shit, right? Because now the Usos aren't his day ones anymore, right? So like now you have like potential beef with Solo and Roman just because Solo was supposed to be that guy, right? He put all his faith into
Yeah.
Solo, saying y'all can get the job done, so I'm gonna get the job done with this motherfucker. But Solo still ate the pin.
Right.
So now it's just like Roman may just like pop off at the mouth at Solo for him not getting the job done. And but Solo obviously is the strength, the bronze here, stuff like that. Solo might just pop back. You know what I mean? But the whole
Right.
story here is just that like Roman's a god, but how do you get rid of a god? You gotta get people to stop worshiping him. Go ahead.
But is he gonna pop off at Solo? Because remember that interaction on SmackDown when like Roman bumped into Solo's shoulder and you saw Roman kind of looked a little scared and he just
Yeah,
kind of ran out the ring. So it
there we
begs the
go.
question: Is he gonna go off on Solo or is he gonna stand by Solo? Because it's like, well, he's the guy. I can take on Jay. I can take on Jimmy because I've dealt with Jay and Jimmy. I
Right.
don't want to take on Solo. I don't want to smoke with Solo. I need him on
Mm-hmm.
my side. So that begs the question. There's that layer. Like, is he actually going to pop off at Solo, or is he going to do what he needs to do to keep Solo around? And was the plan all along to align himself with the Usos so that he can get Solo by default, and then when they
Mm-hmm.
get rid of the Usos, he could still have Solo with him?
Exactly. And then adding on to the whole like God and worshiping comment, there's Paul Heyman. Not too
Right.
long ago, he was playing the messy side chick role. I didn't forget.
Right.
He was bouncing back and forth between Brock and Roman. So who's to say that after all this, right? Because I don't put it past the Usos to try to like reel back Solo if it's not too late. But again, to be a god, you need someone to worship you. The last person you have on your side is Paul Heyman. And I almost kind of imagine Paul Heyman as, okay, this is me being a dork. I love Teen Titans, y'all. If you didn't know, now you know. I always think about that episode where Cyborg was playing a video game and he was versing Atlas, right? And Atlas was like being like a condescending cunt to like his the mechanic, right? Who kept like giving him the battery, giving him the juice to be as strong as he is, to make him like this god. But eventually, when the mechanic turned on him because he was tired of him being a jerk off, like that's when he started to crumble and completely implode. So that's why I'm also wondering and keeping an eye on Paul. Cause I'm just like, what's going to happen here with this? Is he going to stick it to the end, be on Roman's side until he also gives up, and
Right.
maybe he aligns with Solo? Because Solo's not much of a talker. He says very
Right.
few words. I wouldn't put it past him by the end of this to maybe just be a little bit of a sleazeball and maybe go back to a messy side chick and maybe just behind all this he's like the mastermind. You know, because like this story is not only just like the imploding of the bloodline, but also the imploding of Roman, because Roman really wasn't that guy until it started off with
Paul
Paul.
Heyman. Right.
And then he started adding on people. So it's just so juicy. It's so juicy. There's so many pipelines going on, and I'm now like invested all over again. It makes me less mad about the Mania win because now I'm just like, all right, like I need to see like how this unravels.
I was about to say the same thing. Like now that we have all this story, it's like, okay, now Cody losing at Mania kind of makes sense. Because would we be this invested if Roman didn't have the belt?
Mm-hmm.
If Roman wasn't still, if Roman has the belt, he still has that power. He still has that control. And so now we get to see the unraveling. And I think that I feel like Cody is still going to be the nail in the coffin, but I feel like the unraveling is going to be the most intriguing part about the story. And we're seeing that now. So I don't think Roman and them were lying when they were like, listen, we're not trying to do this fast food storylines over here. Like we're trying to make something precious, something special. And on top of that, the man is what? He just hit 1,000 days as champion. I think he's like not that far away from breaking CM Punk's record um for like for holding like the Universal Championship or something like that. But or the WWE Championship, I should say. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I think that this is incredibly special, and overall I just think that the way that they executed the ending was absolutely perfect. So, with all things considered, how would you rate Night of Champions out of a 10?
Let's see. Cody went over. Trish looked great. Got some cheeks. Kana went over. Natty wrestled for like 5 seconds. Bomb ass ending. I think I tipped over a match. Ali and Gunther went the fuck off. And
They
then we
went
got
off,
amazing
yeah.
storytelling. There was no misses. There's nothing to complain about. So, I
Right.
mean, it might be exaggeration, but I think it was a perfect pay per view. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
I
Bite me,
love wow.
marks.
That's a first. A 10 out of 10 for Mo. I'm gonna agree
Yes.
with you. I feel like there were no misses. I feel like people gave a lot of crap about the Cody and Brock ending, but I feel
Oh, I
like
missed a match. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
because Cody kind of fainted. But I feel like that's what needed to happen because it kept Cody looking strong. Like he didn't tap out, he didn't get pinned, he didn't look weak. And I feel like they're trying to make Cody into a strong baby face and a resilient one. So the fact that he lost the match by fainting actually made sense to me. But like I love the way that happened. I love the world title opener. I loved how Asuka won because Asuka used a new way to win with her mist. That was like genius, and it still made Bianca look strong because she like instead of blowing it out, she just put it in her eye. She's put it in her eye, so she still, you know, the mist was still effective. Honestly, I'm gonna go with you. I think it's a 10 out of 10 as well. Also, before we move on, I wanted to add about the whole Bianca situation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I want to get your opinions on it. I didn't mind seeing Bianca Belair lose because ultimately, all championship reigns have to come to an end. And I don't think that there was anybody on that roster that would believably take down Bianca besides Asuka. I mean, maybe it could have happened at Mania, but I feel like the Mania win was just like the all right, I beat Asuka. So and if Asuka spins the block and wins, it's like all right, then she gets her W, she gets her lick back. But like I feel like people were like really like, oh, Bianca can't lose. It's like, well, eventually she's gonna have to lose, and if she doesn't lose, people are gonna complain that the reign is getting stale. So it's like, just do it now. But I wanted to know your opinion on that, on Bianca taking the L. Do you think
I'm
it
a
was good
huge
for her?
Bianca. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Um, I'm a huge Bianca Belair fan. And I even agree that her reign was going on too long and it was making everything stale. And I knew that it had to come to an end based off of the last pay per view when she was actually getting booed by the Puerto Ricans. Like,
Mm.
I understand that, yeah, Io was white hot, but like she's still the baby face. She's still the face of the company. You don't want to ever like overstay your welcome. You know what I mean? Like you still want her to come off like fresh and fun, and there's only so many ways you could portray a baby face and do a long reign before people start hating you. You could always like mix it up more when you're a heel, but as a baby face, it's very hard because at some point we're gonna get tired, you know. And it made me upset that people were getting tired. However, I did understand that on like a PR standpoint and marketing standpoint, why Bianca was the girl. So I feel like there was no reason, and I agree with Jordan by the way with Oscar kind of going over for two reasons. A, I felt like she should have went over at Mania, but I gave it a pass because of what I just said. But like, you don't sit there and you like bring back this badass character that was like this like that was this big thing in Japan that kind of like made Asuka who she is or what she's most memorable for, and you kind of just bury it twice. Like if you did it twice, then I definitely would have got the pitchfork out for Triple H because you don't do that. At that point, you might as well have kept her as Asuka. Um, but I felt like this was a nice way to reestablish the character. By the way, shout out to Asuka's gear. She had the best gear of the fucking night. Like it that
Tracksuit
outfit
style.
was yeah, that outfit was immaculate. It was so majestic looking. It was so detailed orientated. I loved it so much. I wish that was her default outfit. But going back to my point, I feel like if we're gonna reestablish that character and give it another chance, yeah, she does have to take the belt from the champion, and she did it in a very clever way. I don't think the match was too long. I think I liked the match a little bit more than the Mania match personally. Um, Again, I think that the lineup on the car was also pretty good too, to where people, even if you were annoyed, you kind of got over it by the end. So
Yeah.
I think it was perfect. Like, I think that there was no other better way to dethrone Bianca. And I think that it'll give us a nice, fresh shake up with the women. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I want to hear what everybody else thinks about this year's Night of Champions. Leave your comments below, and let us know how you felt about that show. But we are moving on to the second show of the weekend, and arguably the shocker of the weekend, which was NXT Battleground. Um, they actually counter programmed AEW Double or Nothing, which we're going to cover next. But I wanted to know your impressions on NXT Battleground, some of the highlights. What were things that you just kind of like took away, bright spots, all that?
Um, I want to say that probably not going to use the best wording here, but I feel like it was a delightful surprise. Um, it was like the mouthwash I needed to watching AEW. I was not watching in real time like the rest of the fans was for the reasons I explained in this intro of the show. So I watched actually AEW first in its entirety, and then I watched NXT.
Mm.
AEW put me to sleep, but NXT woke me the fuck up. And I might get called a shield for this, but I almost want to give that show like a 10 out of 10 because there was almost no misses. A few botches did happen in one match. I want to say with like Tiffany and Lyra, but like the show itself was so exciting, and it was only 5 matches, which again goes to show you that is quality over quantity, Tony. Because out of those 9 matches, and we're gonna go into a rant after that. 3 of them were watchable and actual takeaways. I woke up to my feed trying not to spoil it for myself, but of course, it's a habit to wake up and check my timeline at this point.
Okay, right.
No one was talking about AEW past the surprise news between the couple. Um, all of it pretty much was about Battleground. And like again, I have been watching NXT, and it heavily made me felt like, all right, I definitely was sleeping on them, and now I need to get back on this program because, bro, bro, I have been sleeping on the concept of the Creed brothers. I don't know why I haven't been giving them my time, but I was watching them and I felt like a child again. And then I discussed this in the group chat, and then um Jordan made this perfect comparison because I said they were like Brock's children because I started watching freaking Julius throw these guys around 10 times for German suplexes, but then Jordan hits me with this whole, it's like Kurt Shelton, and then what was the third one?
Kurt Shelton and Charlie Haas.
Yes, that they all somehow had 2 babies. And I was like, no wonder this like was so palatable and it felt like good. Like I felt like a child sitting in my seat. I'm like, I just liked them. Like for I couldn't put my finger on it. But I'm like, yo, these guys are fun. And I don't pay attention to like tag team wrestling. So it's a big thing
Right.
for me to actually pay attention to a tag team wrestling match because my biggest ick with modern day tag team wrestling is that they do too much tricks and they do less selling and less actual wrestling. They'll just pop out as many combinations and flips as they can, and everyone just stands back up. But here they still like wrestled very classically, and I'm just like, damn, I want to see them against FTR. I'm just like, that'd be bomb. Like I need that. Like
It's injected in my veins.
yes, like I don't know. I got a weird high off of watching that tag team match that I couldn't explain until Jordan saw that connection. I was just like, oh, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. What was the opener? The opener was Wesley versus
Tyler Bate versus I think it was Wesley and Tyler Bate, and it was a triple threat. It was Wesley, Tyler Bate, and Joe Gacy
it was a
North
triple
American
threat.
title.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh my
sir.
god, I love that too. That match was fucking great. Um, one thing I normally don't like about triple threats is that people spend too much time rotating outside. But like they had put the perfect amount of timing into making sure everyone was in the ring, everyone was wrestling, everyone was countering each other. And everyone looked at fucking great. Fucking great. I don't watch many Tyler Bate matches. I saw a few of his stuff in like NXT UK, but like I was just like so impressed by him. I was just like, damn, like why have I been sleeping on this show? Like I expected Wesley to pop off, but the other 2, they really just had me shook, just fucking shook. I could go on a whole spiel about this. I should probably break this up and ask you, how'd you feel about the triple threat? Let's go match
So
by match.
I loved the triple threat so much, and while I'll also touch on the Creed brothers as well, since we're
Yeah,
gonna, I guess, bundle those 2 match impressions.
yeah.
So I love the triple threat as well. Another comparison that I made in said same group chat: Wesley reminds me of like a black X Pac. He's like he's like young, energetic.
Yeah.
He has like a lot of drip and a lot of juice to him, but he feels a little bit degenerate esque, and you could tell in his movement. It's just a very like unique presentation. Like, and even when Wesley was a part of the tag team MSK, it felt like DX went out and recruited a junior heavyweight tag team, and that was what they got, was MSK. So I've always loved Wesley. He always kind of reminded me of like a black X Pac. And obviously with Joe Gacy and Tyler Bate, I've always been a fan of Tyler Bate. I thought he was the last ever NXT UK champion. And he really was a cornerstone of that brand. And anytime he had a match on that brand, he was always knocking it out the park. So I'm not surprised at Tyler Bates' ability. I am surprised at Joe Gacy. And here's what I will say. We talked about the entrances, and I think that's something we're going to get into as well, because I have a theory about that. Um, I now understand why people, I guess, when they were talking about Bray Wyatt kind of being written off the internal WWE roster, I now know why there is no concern. I feel like WWE is trying to build up Joe Gacy to be the next mystique centric character in WWE. I
Mhm.
don't know how that's gonna go. But he's definitely progressing in the right direction because I feel like he has something with Schism. Not to say that Joe Gacy is the next Bray Wyatt or the new Bray Wyatt or none of that, but I feel like every generation they try to develop a modern day version of a previous generation's mystery or mystique centric character. I feel like first it was The Undertaker, then it was Kane, then you had like, some of them were hits and some of them were misses. You had Mordecai. In WCW, you had Sting. And then in WWE, you also had Bray Wyatt. And now they're doing this whole Joe Gacy thing. And so I think that he's kind of like the next generation of Mystique in WWE. I love the triple threat. It felt really, really engaging and exciting. And the fact that Joe Gacy was his size and he is so athletic and so agile, I think really helped pump some juice into the match. I love that match. The Creed brothers definitely give me junior greatest tag team ever vibes with Shelton and Charlie. I feel like they've been able to kind of pop off because I feel like there was a little bit of uncertainty surrounding them because they were in Diamond Mine and they had that whole thing with Damon Cross, I believe it was, like that little feud they had going on, which I honestly didn't think was necessary. And then they also had Roderick Strong in the group before he went to AEW. And I feel like because obviously Roddy was the former Undisputed Elite member, there was a lot of focus on him. But I feel like now that they know, all right, Roddy's in WWE, Damon is doing his own thing. Now they can focus on the Creed brothers more as a tag team and as a focal point of the Diamond Mine collective because it's them and it's also Ivy Nile. I love that tag match. I think it was great. I think it was clean. Um, yeah, and I really, really mess with that. I really, really love that tag team and I love that tag team match. I think the next thing, I guess the next big match was the women's title match with Tiffany Stratton and Lyra. I wanted to know your impressions on that. How did you feel about that? Um how did you feel about that match? Granted, there were a couple botches, but how did you feel like they handled that position?
Okay, so I've seen Tiffany's work. I haven't seen any of Lyra's work until I seen this match. And she definitely impressed me. You could kind of tell that Lyra was more experienced and she was kind of leading because
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany's still relatively new, from my understanding, to wrestling as a whole. Like she has like a gymnastics background or something, and I think that's where she was a little rusty. She's good at like
Mm-hmm.
pulling off the athletic moves, but in terms of like the wrestling, she has yet to like master her timing. So that's just where she Lyra had to do extra selling, or some moves had to be redone, or again Lyra was basically like leading the match. But I became a fan of her by the end of it. But I still actually enjoyed Tiffany Stratton as a wrestler. I love her look. Her ring gear was fire. Okay.
Tough.
Um, I think that they went with the right champion because if Nikita wasn't injured or out currently wrestling, she definitely would have had the belt by now. But you know that their next pick was definitely Tiffany. And I could have swore that I heard in commentary they said like she was like a Shawn Michaels pick, like both of them were Shawn Michaels picks or something like that. I could see why. They both have like their own star quality to them. But Tiffany's definitely more E. I actually like her a lot. She could like you could like delete a handful of blondes off of the main roster that probably will never be utilized properly or really have much of a purpose, and just insert Tiffany, and that would make up for a lot. I could see her doing having a few good matches. Like I could see her working with Charlotte. That's actually something I would be excited to see.
Yeah.
Um, she one thing I just like about Tiffany is that her character is so simple but so effective. Like she's like the epitome of white privilege, and she just throws it into your face. And it doesn't help that there's information that like she's like MAGA whatnot, but like it's almost kind of perfect because she makes like the perfect heel. Like she's obnoxious, but she's like she checks off every single box of what Vince would want in a blonde that would have otherwise made her over. But like, here's the kicker: she's actually great at wrestling. She just needs more time, which is
Right.
why I think that they're giving her the belt to see what she could do. And I think we're gonna get a good reign out of it. I'm not expecting a super long reign out of Tiffany, but I'm expecting to see more flavor with NXT having her as a heel, just because Tiffany still needs to be molded as a wrestler, but her personality is there, and you could always get more storylines out of a heel champion, especially
Hmm.
with how obnoxious she is. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think the right person won. Maybe down the line we could get Lyra, because I really do enjoy her. I wouldn't mind even seeing like a rematch up, but I love it. By the way, I love her entrance too. That's an entrance that's gonna look so cool during like main roster pay per views and stuff like that. Like automatically, I forgot her theme song, but like the whole camera stuff like that reminded me of like Melina and the whole paparazzi stuff.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I love that. Like again, it's the attention to details and little callbacks that they do. Like she's gonna be interesting. I know a lot of people want to hate her, but like it's so hard too because she's actually like someone who's going to be special. Like you could just see it. Like Shawn Michaels has a really good eye for talent, and she's kind of it. What did you feel about that whole match and Tiffany winning?
I think you're right. I think that they went with the right champion. I think Tiffany should have won. I also feel like Lyra did a great job selling that knee from the very very beginning of the match.
Oh
It because
yeah.
there was a moment where I thought it was a legit thing, and then there was a moment where she wasn't limping on that knee. She felt good, and then she went back to it. That's how I knew she was selling it. So she was selling the knee
Oh, she's
really really
good.
well. So I was like, that's really 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 good. But I feel like you said, Tiffany has a great look. I think she's going to be very very interesting on the main roster. I think she hasn't been wrestling that long, but she is super athletic. That moonsault is one of the cleanest I've ever seen in my life. That prettiest
Yeah.
moonsault ever, super clean. And in ring wise, she's really really sound. She has the look. Obviously, she has the credentials now as being the NXT Women's Champion. And I feel like her promos are pretty solid. I feel like there's room for growth. But even she said in like previous interviews, like, "Hey, I'm not ready for the main roster yet. Like, I got work to do." So the fact that we have someone who has that like sense of like self awareness, I think that is really really commendable. And so I think that that match was really really good. I feel like Tiffany is really really good, and even down to like the week after, she did like the little "I'm the champion" celebration, and it came off really really obnoxious, and I love
She
that.
did botch that promo though.
She did 100%. But you know what? Baby steps. All right, one at a time. Baby steps. But I think she's really really good, and I'm really really excited to see where she goes next. So we'll see what goes on with that. But
Yeah.
that was that match. I was gonna ask you, because this was something that you pointed out to me, the British rounds match between Noam Dar and Dragon Lee.
Oh
Wanted you to tell the
yeah.
people how you felt about that, because I thought this is a really really interesting kind of take set of takeaways.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I noticed that with NXT, though I don't keep up with the show, I noticed that Hunter does this thing, or maybe Shawn Michaels, I guess, because he's the one that takes over NXT, right? Um, like he has been doing this thing where he's been introducing different match styles that I'm not sure if they're concepts that he made up or that he just sees in other countries or other continents, but like he's putting stuff in there that kind of like throws a little bit spice on these shows, because I mean, I've been watching wrestling right since like 2004 or whatnot. So in my head, I feel like I know that there's every match type out there. But then I go to NXT, and then like I see like a match I never heard of. Like what, back in December or January they had the Survivor
I am
match.
Survivor. I am
Yeah,
Survivor.
that
Yeah.
that was like supposed to be a new twist for War Games, and I delightfully like fell in love with that. Was there a pay per view in between? I felt like there was something else that they threw in there that was in between that match and this. But I just know that consecutively on 2.0, a big thing that they keep doing is showing you that like wrestling could be like spoken in different languages almost. So
Mm.
I loved this match. And I like the psychology that goes behind it. They said it on commentary about how you're on like a time slot, right? And because you're on a time slot, like you want to keep going with your momentum to try to like get that pinfall, and you may not even get the pinfall at all. A, but then B is that like it kind of like stops you and halts you if you don't get it because you got to reset, which gives your opponent time to like rethink, and it gives you more time to rethink about how you're gonna go about this. Like you might have been on a roll beating their asses, but now they're forcing you to pull back. So I kind of like that because that would fuck with my head too if I was wrestling somebody. Because they just watch, like, I thought I put out all my stops, but I forgot where I was at and that I had a small amount of time to get this work in. But now I'm notating. I'm notating as an opponent. All right, like he pulled out all these stops. Now I know how I'm gonna get his ass the next round. Boom, I got his ass the next round, and now I got you shaking because you're thinking, shit. Now I got 4 more rounds to prove myself. Like I love the psychology behind it because it's kind of like a boxing style match, if you will, but just with more rounds. And it was just really cool to me. It was fun. I something that I wish was kind of like a regular thing, not like every single show, but like I wish that that was like a match style that I could almost play in a video game for WWE because I thought the concept is really cool. And I thought the match was fun. Who went over for that match? I'm not good with the
Noam
names.
Dar, Noam Dar, Noam
The,
Dar
the
went
person
over
that
for
came
that.
in with the cup.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought the match itself was just awesome, and again, I appreciate Shawn Michaels for showing us different forms of like wrestling or ways you can incorporate wrestling. What was your takeaway for this match?
First things first, one thing Noam Dar is going to do, he's going to find his way around the sisters, okay? Whether it's Alicia Fox, Lash Legend, Miss Jackson, this man is always around a sister, all right?
He is.
And I ain't mad at him. But I think this is a great, obviously, like you said, it was a great match. I love the fact that, yes, obviously NXT UK folded, but they don't make it feel like it didn't matter because this was a match that was prominent in NXT UK. The Heritage Cup was kind of like their mid card title, what a North American title was to NXT, what the Intercontinental US Championship is to the main rosters in their respective shows, is what the Heritage Cup was to NXT UK. So the fact that they brought that cup over and they make it feel like it matters by putting it in these matches, and I've always loved Noam Dar, even when he was a part of the NXT UK like initial tournament, I think it was. He's always been a great talent. I think he was in the cruiserweight division as well. He's always been a great talent, always been a phenomenal wrestler. And like you said, there were little things that showed you who was at an advantage and who wasn't at an advantage, or who this would put limits on and who this wouldn't put limits on. I remember at the end of round one, Dragon Lee was about to do a dive outside the ring, but the time expired and the ref was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it was like, that's attention to detail. It shows you that he's used to capitalizing off of his momentum to speed up some offense. And it's just
That's
like,
cool.
that's cool. And then at the end of another round, like I think Noam got like hit in the ear, and then the time expired and he hit a back elbow on Dragon Lee. And then the ref was like, whoa, you can't do that. And then Noam was like, nah, I couldn't hear it. My ear, my ear, my ear. So like stuff like that I thought was really, really interesting. And the fact that they're using elements from these matches to kind of shift the momentum of the match. For example, every in the British rounds match, every participant has a cornerman, right?
Mm.
Every participant has a cornerman, a towel, and a bucket, which is usually used for spit, blood, water, whatever. Later in the match, while it wasn't really heavily used, last round comes around, both of them are down. Miss Jackson comes down the ramp. Lash Legend hops over the back, hits Dragon Lee with the bucket, the pin, 1, 2, 3. And it's just like that would not have happened in a regular match because only a British rounds match is going to put a corner man and a bucket in your corner. So stuff
Mm.
like that is like wow, like they pay attention to these little details, and it really makes the match, and it also develops the character even more to show you what type of person they are. The match, I don't know if you watched it, but the next match that really like rocked me, Ilya Dragunov versus Dijak in that last man standing match. Did you see that? Did you
I
see
didn't
that?
watch the match. It's just that I'm trying to remember which one was which. Because the one with the mask, I think I've seen his work before. It was the other guy who I have not seen before. So I was like,
It,
okay, this guy's kind of weird looking, but by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I kind of like him. Like,
Ilya Ilya was the guy from NXT UK who had like the symphony music who came out. Dijak was the
oh,
one with the shades. Donovan. I think the guy with the mask was Dragon Lee.
I seen
And
Dragon Lee
the
before. It was the other dude, the Elliot guy. Like, I didn't
Ilya
see him before.
Dragunov, yeah.
Yeah, like he
He's an
impressed the
NXT
fuck out
UK
of
guy.
me. Oh, okay. Come on, I feel like I see him before, but like I don't know, he looked different. Like, is he has
Yeah.
a different character now, or is it's the same thing? Because he looked
It's the same
same but
one.
different.
It's the same one, but it was. I mean, he was primarily in NXT UK, so it was just he just didn't have like that exposure in the states. But that was a banger. That
Yeah, that
match
was.
was super tough. And then obviously like Mello and Braun. Definitely wanted to know your opinions on that though.
Oh yeah, I actually got distracted by the end of it, so I could not watch the ending. But I know who won. I know who won. um, and again, like I said, considering that I wasn't like watching consistently, I was actually getting like a real feel of Braun as a heel. I love his entrance. I like how he comes
Mm,
out with a dog mask. It's kind of
mm,
corny, but it works for him.
right.
I love again like the whole hoodie thing. The facial hair looks great on him. He actually works to me and looks better as a heel than he does as a baby face. He already has kind of like I don't know, like a gym bro look that you kind of already just are expecting some bullshit out of him. So I love it. And I feel like it's very fitting for him. Of course, like him and Mello worked with each other before, so I was expecting for it to be a banger. So I thought, from what I saw, because I didn't get to see the ending, can you please fill me in on what the ending was?
So the ending consisted of first off, the beginning of the end was easily the best spear I've seen in my entire life from Braun Breaker. Carmelo was like in the middle of the air. He was going for his thing, and then Braun hit him. Um, but he kicked out of that, obviously, and then that led to it was a clean pin where Melo hit the I think it was the leg drop, if I'm not mistaken, to get the pin to win that match.
Ending with a leg drop. How do
But
you
it
feel
was
about that?
it worked. Like, you know what it is? It's not necessarily it's not the most captivating, but when I think about Melo and I think of how much he's going to be a star, I want him to have a finisher that's going to have a long life in WWE. And that leg drop is going to allow him to have a long life. Like,
Hmm.
I want him to have longevity. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's powerful enough to that fact that like it's powerful enough so that if he were to win a world championship, you would believe it. But it's simple enough to he could do it for 20, 30 years. You know what
Jeez,
I'm
who else
saying?
had a leg drop finisher besides Hogan?
Um, Taker had a leg drop signature move on the apron, but
No, it
it
wasn't like
wasn't
a
like a
classic leg
finisher.
drop.
Yeah,
That's
no,
interesting to bring
and
back
it.
a classic move as a finisher that
I
was
mean,
used by a legend, even though I hate this particular legend. Go on,
listen,
sorry.
if y'all want to give Hogan's move to Mello, I do not mind. Right, that's now Mello's leg drop, it was a good ending. It was a good ending, and I think it was really really cool the way they did that. But we run. We've been talking about this for a while. We want to know what y'all opinions are on NXT Battleground. Let us know in the comments. Leave them things below. We're gonna get into what I and Mo have been both dying to talk about, which is AEW Double or Nothing. I'm not even gonna like go into like a deep intro. Mo, what was your impressions on AEW Double or Nothing?
Hot steaming garbage, minus the ending. Tony should be ashamed of himself, and I feel sorry for everyone that bought a ticket. But at the same time, that was the most sleepiest crowd I had ever seen. Like, y'all was tired the entire time. The entire time. Like, I understand the show was a little slow. Not a little, it was very slow. But, like, the part that was so good, y'all did not wake up for me. And
Mm,
it's so crazy because Double or Nothing is like the SummerSlam equivalent, right? And
yeah.
it just didn't feel like like a show or a spectacle. First and foremost, can we end battle royals? Can we end them? What is the point? What do you gain out of winning a battle royal? Is it like an annual showcasing? I can't even say it's an annual showcasing for wrestlers that are on payroll that are not utilized. Because why was Jay White and Ricky Starks in there? Like I was so pissed off that I just when I saw that they were in there, I was just so mad. I started just fast forwarding. Like there were some interesting spots, but it's just like it's so meaningless. It's so pointless. Again, you don't have to have a bajillion matches on the card if they're not going to be quality. Like look what WWE did with the main roster and NXT. They definitely didn't have 9 matches. I think it was 6 and 5 or something like that. But you remember all of them. The only thing that was like memorable for me, uh, let's start off with Max Caster because that rap, that rap was a jaw dropper. What? He came out swinging.
Swinging. Okay.
He came for Malachi Black and said that he was doing blackface. I was like, oh my god, I didn't even peep that. Like, man, he followed up with coming at Buddy. We already knew that like he feels some type of way about Rhea, right? Because we seen that deleted Instagram comment with Dom pointing at her ass and whatnot. But he goes ahead and says that he's getting cucked by a kid named Dom.
Dominant. I was like, literally, that was me the entire like when that line came up. I was like, oh nah.
And you know this man is still pressed because he still followed up on Twitter about how like he got him over in 2 companies or something like that. Like, boy, bye, you're mad. Like you're so mad right now. He had him pressed. Like I couldn't even focus. I was focusing on the match, yes, but I couldn't almost focus on the match. I was just like, oh my god, like he could not have gotten away with this shit on regular TV. Like he waited. He had this ready and written from the moment he saw the Instagram post because he knew he couldn't say those 2 lines. That was crazy. That was definitely crazy. But the match was fun. I still find Anthony Bowen a national treasure. I thought it was so funny when he did the whole sitting in a pretzel style and just taunted at Malachi like I can pretzel style too, basically like who you bitch, like that shit was mad funny to me. He was like to me he was like my biggest takeaway of the entire night. Just like Max Caster's rap, not the entire night of that match. Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. I'm just gonna stop right there and ask you how'd you feel about that match or that moment with Max.
I like the match. I think that I, you know what it was? Because they announced it was like, it's an open house match. It's an open challenge. Yeah. I expected a non-AEW team to come out, but when the Acclaim came out, I was like, all right, I'm cool with the Acclaim. And then when the rap happened, I was just like, oof. That was rough. I mean, like, I just be feeling so bad for Buddy because, like, it seems like every time this man is in partnership with someone, somebody is just trying it. With Alexa Bliss, it was the entire internet.
Oh
and
yeah.
Now with Rhea, it just and with Alexa, it was the entire internet plus half the locker room. Then when it's Rhea, it's like, well, she just so happens to be in her sex symbol era, and it's just like, damn, buddy, like
can't catch a break, bro.
You cannot catch a break, and I feel so bad for him, but. I think it was a good match. Like, obviously, I'm just really, really glad that, like, Malachi Black is getting his just due and he's getting highlighted as a performer because he was someone who I felt like on the main roster in WWE, he was, like, underutilized.
But have they been doing anything with the House of Black?
I mean, with the Trios Championships, yeah. I mean, like, they've been on TV regularly. They've been defending the championships regularly. They've been featured prominently. So it's like, they have been doing stuff. I would say more than what was done in WWE.
But what's the story with them? Like, I don't understand like what.
So how they came together. So I mean,
how they came together, I understand. But like, what's their purpose moving forward? Because they acquired Julia, and then what?
And then, like, I mean, like, I think their just goal is to just be a faction to just kick ass. I mean, like, and to win gold. I mean, like, that's pretty much the goal of every faction in AEW is just like we're just gonna wow out and win as much as we can and accumulate wins and accumulate championships. Like, I think that the way that they came together was so intriguing and then it got us hooked. And then seeing Julia's character transformation from being the pop, like the super preppy cheerleader, into like this dark, ominous girl. And if you watch her matches, like when Dark was a thing in Dark Elevation, she just became a more intriguing character. So it's like, okay, now we have something here, and they have championships, and they've been featured prominently. So
Okay.
I definitely like where they're going with them. Did you
Okay.
watch Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho?
Jesus Christ, do we have to talk about this?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Jesus
100%
Christ.
do.
Oh my god. I was so pissed off because it was so underwhelming. It was between Jericho's slow old man, just bone cracking arthritis built wrestling. He looked it terrible. And then Adam Cole, he's not helping the painfully small comments when he wrestles like he's painfully small. By that I mean this. Okay, we're gonna get into this match later, but Darby Allin is also one of the most tiniest people on that roster, right? But like when Darby Allin wrestles, he wrestles with ferocity and the velocity. He looks like a
Mm.
threat. He looks like he can hold his own. Adam Cole, why are you like, maybe he has an injury or something that he's healing from? I don't know. But like he was delicate the entire time. Now you can't cut a promo talking about how I'm gonna end your career and you're throwing these little sissy punches and these sissy throws. Like, if you don't want to take a bump because you're probably injured, all right, I get that. But when you're throwing strikes, there's no excuse as to why you can't lay it on them. I see Naomi lay harder strikes. The ending pissed me off because he's like, uh, uh, these slow motion, like, non effective hits that was supposed to put Jericho out, and it was just corny to me. It gave me the type of like ick that I got when I watched The Fiend and um The Fiend
Seth
and
Rollins.
Seth Rollins, because like what was the match name again? The
Hell in a
match.
Cell. It was a Hell in a Cell, but it was like the red Hell in a Cell.
No, I'm talking about this match. This match, the match type.
Unsanctioned. It was an unsanctioned
So
match.
why is it being called off because he's getting punched relentlessly? Like it was, isn't that kind of like an equivalence of kind of like, you know, a DQ match, a no DQ match? Like
Yeah.
I just thought it was just a weird ending, especially when again there's no ferocity behind the hits. It just made me think to myself that Chris Jericho doesn't need to like not be involved in wrestling, but I think that it's time that he packs it up as a wrestler. I think he's still valuable, and I appreciate everything that he's done for the company. I mean, for weren't for him, I don't think anyone had paid attention to AEW to begin with. You know, like he was needed to hold the belt in the first place, and he's put a lot of talents over. But I feel like it's his time to sit back and try to help put talents over without being in a match with them. Like he's a good talker too. I mean, duh, the man has a podcast, guys. Freaking done media, has his own band. Why can't he do like a talking role where instead of having a faction where everyone's following behind him, why can't he just like talk for someone or stand beside someone instead of standing in front of someone? Like he can still be usable, you know, and to help get someone's character over. Cause I don't think that with the Jericho Appreciation Squad or whatever the hell that he calls it, society, I don't think he's really gotten the people behind him really over. They're just like it's there at this point. But why can't he just get like other people over, you know,
Mm.
in an indirect way? This to me, I thought the match was underwhelming. I think that Jericho just needs to just do something else. What do you think?
I agree that the match was super underwhelming. I feel like it could have been a lot better. I thought it was hilarious that Sabu came out, went through his one table, and then went home. He literally got out, set up.
Oh, I
He's like,
forgot
"We're gonna
about
make this
that.
quick. We're gonna make this quick. I'm gonna get this table. I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna get up, and we gonna go home." So there was that aspect. I think another big thing that I kind of was paying attention to, I don't think that it was a matter of like Jericho needing to hang it up. I feel like he has some valuable years left in him. However, I do just think that if we're gonna do an unsanctioned match, we should have an unsanctioned finish. And like we need to really bring it. I feel like Adam, like, and rightfully so, this is probably the most extreme physical contact he's been involved with since returning from injury. And according to, All Access and all these things, that injury was pretty serious. But like if the whole idea is like, well, we don't know like how brutal we can be because any bump can be his last. A one-on-one wrestling match could have sufficed, in my opinion, because I believe that Cole is a great wrestler as well as Jericho. But I feel like when you say, "Oh, it's going to be an unsanctioned match," and we have John Moxley bleeding just because the standard is really high, you know what I mean? So I feel like because of like the fact that there was an unsanctioned match label attached to it, it kind of set the bar and the expectations really high, and thus making the match feel underwhelming. Um, However, I feel like this isn't over. I feel like more people are going to get involved. Um, but as far as the match is concerned, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So there's that. To kind of touch on your point earlier about the battle royal, I think that match should have been 3 or 4 people. Like it should have been like a 3-way or a 4-way, not a 4-way because I don't want it to compete with the 3 pillars. But it really boiled down to 3 people. I think it should have been Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and somebody else. But the battle royal, I think. Oh, and Swerve.
I forgot he was in there.
Actually,
Him and
no.
Keith Lee was in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, him and Keith Lee was in there too. I feel like it should have been Swerve. Actually, no, I take that back. It should have been Swerve, Ricky, and Orange Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think that they needed to do a battle royal with that. Um, the tag team match with FTR versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't care for
but
it.
I wanted to specifically focus on the last 2 matches though, which is the 4 pillars match and the Anarchy in the Arena.
Wait, we
How
can't
did you
do
feel about
that. We can't do that without mentioning Jade's.
Jade? My bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Talk about that. Talk first of all. Can we talk about the entrance?
Yes, yes. Okay. I love that so much. Oh my god. She was paying homage to her sorority, which I believe was the first African American sorority in what location?
I hold on. I gotta check it, but keep going though. While I
Well, it was iconic. All right. We said this in the group chat, but one thing we love about Miss Jade is that she's going to come in unapologetically black, and she came out with the singer to this TikTok song. What was that song called? It was
Pretty
it
girls
was
walk like this.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was so cute. The little stepping was cute. The ring gear was cute. Everyone looked so happy to be there. And then they passed her belt. She came in there looking like a star. And then she had her match with Taya. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not really a big fan of Taya Valkyrie. I'm really not. But I thought the belt was gonna go to her because similar to Bianca, I just thought the reign was going on for too long. Um, and then Jade retained, and then it threw me off. I'm like, okay. But then we got hit with a little swerve again. Both our black female champions got hit with swerves because we had a return. When we had a return of Chris Statlander, which I'm not sure about you guys, but I was excited. I was most definitely excited because she was someone who I wasn't even thinking about was a possible option, considering she was out for like 9-10 months with an injury. But I thought the booking was actually good, in spite of the fact that a lot of people think that it was fucked up. I think that it worked because even though I don't like Tay Valkyrie, she's a legitimate wrestler. Um, and she weakened Jade, and Chris came out pretty much just like blindsiding her while she again was just like beaten down and weakened. I feel like Chris should have got a bigger pop for her return. She looked great, by the way. Love her look. But she came in, she wrapped it up, and she took the belt. And I thought it was brilliant because one thing about Chris is that, like, despite the fact that this crowd wasn't loud enough for me, everywhere else that she goes, anytime she's making a return from her injuries, she always comes back with such like just a warm welcoming from the audience. Like she just oozes just pure baby face. And I don't think that if it was another crowd, definitely they would have made way more noise for her victory, because like she is, again, she is such a natural baby face. She's a legitimate wrestler. Um, I feel like she should have gotten an opportunity sooner had she not been out of action constantly. And I know people are just like upset because like, oh well, there's a whole roster of females that they could have been utilizing. Why they give to someone who just got here? That's unfair. I don't think anyone's as built up as Chris, in my personal
Yeah.
opinion. I think every other female kind of has work to do. Like we like Anna Jay, for example, but Anna Jay, like she has her she has some good matches, but she has a lot of like not that many good matches. You know what I mean? We thought Kiera Hogan would be great because Kiera Hogan is a good wrestler, but she doesn't really have like that charisma that I think we're looking for. But Chris kind of has all that, and she's gonna give us that shake up that, like I said, that Connor Oscar's gonna give. I feel like she's gonna give that here, and plus Jay won some time off, so I feel like if it probably was a decision she agreed upon as well. That all right, let's give it to Chris. She worked very hard, even though she hasn't been around. Like I mean, she busted her ass trying to get there. You feel me? So I was actually pretty happy with the decision. But what do you feel about Jade's entrance and Chris Statlander's win?
So first things first, we gotta shout out Jade. Shout out to all the AKAs. So to give a little bit of context, Alpha Kappa Alpha is the first African American sorority. It was founded in 1908. It was founded on the campus of Howard University. And what was happening was during that entrance, she was doing her stroll. And if you know anything about historically black fraternities and sororities, everybody has their own stroll. And so the stroll is very unique to the identity of every single fraternity and or sorority. Omega Psi Phi has their own, the Kappas got their own, the AKAs got their own, the Deltas got their own, Betas, I believe they have their own. So like everybody kind of has their own stroll. The Alphas, they have their own. So everybody kind of has their own stroll. And so for her to do the stroll of the first black, or do a stroll representing the first black sorority, I think is very, very big for the culture. And I don't think that that's talked about as heavy as it should be, mostly because the people who are consuming wrestling don't understand the historical significance of that. Um, so the fact that she was able to, one, do that on TV as an entrance, and two, have that gear, that pink and green gear, and that pink and that green are AKA colors. So the pink and the green, that's AKA. So for her to be able to represent her sorority the way that she did, represent the culture the way that she did, that was big. And I don't think that people are going to digest that and appreciate that until 20, 30 years from now when we have a larger black fan base in wrestling. So that's that. I think that the Jade Taya Valkyrie match was pretty solid. I could have sworn that Taya was going to win, but I was surprised when she didn't. But I was very, very happy that Chris Statlander was the one that came back and ended the streak. I felt like it was appropriate. I felt like it was time. Um, and Chris Statlander, to kind of build on what you're saying, is a natural babyface. People love Chris. People love Chris. People were rooting for her throughout her recovery. And I feel like, once again, um, had that been a different city, she probably would have gotten a bigger reception, which I think brings me to this point. And I was going to wait to the end to say it, but I'm going to say it now. I don't think Las Vegas is a wrestling crowd. I don't think that Las Vegas is a wrestling crowd.
Nope.
Las Vegas is a combat sports crowd. It's an MMA crowd. It's a boxing crowd, but it is not a wrestling crowd. And what had happened was, I feel like they based their commitment to doing these Las Vegas shows based on the first 2 years of Double or Nothing. But in reality, what was happening was, I feel like a lot of people were flying from out of town, and they were coming to this AEW pay-per-view because either AEW had not been to their town yet, or two, because it was new and you wanted to be a part of the AEW experience in Vegas. Because I think that Vegas and Chicago are, in my opinion, the two big AEW cities, because you have Double or Nothing in one and you have All In the other. And so I think that, in addition to the fact that it wasn't necessarily the most exciting show, the market is burnt to the ground because they've been exposed to so many wrestling shows and MMA shows and boxing shows in the past year that it's just like, I feel like people are tired, not necessarily of AEW, but just the market is just so oversaturated. There's so much happening that it's easy to get bored and it's easy to get tired. So there's that. That was my little impression on the Jade match. On to the Four Pillars match. Wanted to know your opinion on that, on your takeaways from that match and so forth.
I think that was the best match of the night. And okay, I want to backtrack. I love the fact that while they did their announcement between Sammy and Tay Conti for having a baby, and at first I was annoyed and it was the eye roll. Not that, that they're having a baby, but I'm like, all right, why are you doing this shit here? Type of me. I'm like, why are they copying Miz and Maurice? That was my first thought.
I'm weak.
No, for real, that was my first thought. But then, unlike the E, they actually took that and they incorporated it into the match, and adding character development, which was fucking amazing. Because my pick going in was Sammy, just because they put Sammy out to be like this undying baby face or whatnot. And I believe we said in our last predictions, as Jordan said, that MJF's going to watch them all do their flippy shit, and then MJF is going to be an opportunist, more or less, and get the pin there. But they went about it utilizing the news. It was pretty awesome. I think everyone went out there looking great. Of course, we didn't think it was going to go to Darby or to Jungle Boy, but they still looked amazing. They still showed out. As I said previously, Darby Allin's so tiny, but he looks and is reckless. Like, he looks scary. Yeah. I wouldn't want to mess with him. I really wouldn't. But they all looked good, and I liked how similar to my feedback on the triple threat for NXT. I like the fact that all faces were pretty much in the ring at almost all times until they need to tell a story. And part of the story was, yeah, Sammy's a dad now. So, dude, what are you doing away from your kid and your pregnant wife? Like, you're supposed to be a baby face, but you're gonna be a terrible person if you just go to work and you try to collect this extra money and spend even more time away from your family. Like, you should just give it up and just be a dad, man. And it made Sammy, despite the fact that how we feel about him as a person, it made him an even more undying baby face. So we felt bad for him. Because MJF's like, yo, lay down. Just take your L's. Go home. Like, you're going to give us this announcement and then you're just going to be selfish? How dare you? You know what I mean?
Right.
It was such good shit because it's such an MJF thing to do, to be manipulative. Literally. Because he was about to eat that pin, and he knew that. He just stopped everything, took them in, like, whoa. You're a shitty person. You think I'm a shitty person? You're a shitty person. Sammy was damn near ready to lay down and take the pin. But, of course, Sammy faked it. And then we got this wonderful ending using the Daredevil that Darby Allin is, with his coffin drop. We always comment on the fact that you can't see where you're going with that move. So it's bound that you're going to hit your head at some point. And I loved how that was the ending. They used logic. And MJF, being the asshole opportunist he is, takes the belt that he's going to retain anyways, lay it down and let him smash his head into it and then collect the pin. I love that. I popped heavily. I'm like, oh, this is good. He's just too good. All right. He deserved that retain. That was a good match. Everyone looked good. The desperation was there the entire fucking time. Again, the whole match was logical. Like,
yes.
Another thing that I loved was how desperate everyone was watching everyone else to make sure, I'll be damned if you tap. Like, they broke out submission logs to make sure the other person didn't tap. There was this cool ass, like, moment where they were like in Boston Crabs or something, and even when they were all in the human centipede version of a figure four leg lock and ankle lock, and everyone was like,
human centipede.
yeah, everyone's like watching each other like, you better not tap. You bet this is mine. Like, I'd be damned. I'd be damned. Like, I
If I
loved
let you
it.
get this right.
Everyone was so desperate the entire time. Like, that was the match that woke me up for the entire night. To me, if that match ended the show and we just clipped out the last match, I would have been satisfied. Like, that best fucking match of the night. Everyone looked amazing. What was your take, Jordan?
So not only did they use logic, and not only did the belt get slid in, so they put the belt on Jungle Boy, and Darby hit his, hit his head, not hit his head, I think hit his back. And then what did MJF do before the pin? The headlock takeover. And they had been talking about that all feud long. I beat you with a headlock takeover. I beat you with a headlock takeover. I beat you with a headlock. So the fact that MJF ended it with a headlock takeover into the pin, genius. Also, the fact that all four people were involved in the finish of the match. You had Jungle Boy, who had just been hit with a coffin drop with a belt put on top of him, right? But he wasn't pinned. You had Darby being pinned, taking the clean pin after a headlock takeover. You had Sammy frantically trying to get into the ring to break up the pin. And so you can tell a story from each of those points. You can tell a story from MJF's point of being an opportunist, Darby kind of like being so close until MJF did some MJF stuff. You can see Jungle Boy as like the guy who, ultimately, even though he wasn't pinned, right, was the guy who kind of like ended the chances for everyone else. And then you can see Sammy, come from the place of like, I wasn't even in the ring. You didn't even pin me. How are you going to say that you beat me? Da 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 da. So there's so many stories that can go from that point. But I think that 4-way was just fantastic. Everyone looked great. When everyone broke out their mentor's finishing move, I popped between Jungle Boy using the Unprettier, MJF doing the Crossroads. I think Darby did both the Scorpion Deathlock as well as the little drop, Scorpion Death drop. I popped for it all. And then obviously the Code Breaker, and I think when they did a Boston Crab, Sammy did the Walls of Jericho. So like everybody using their mentor's finishing move, I just think was just absolutely excellent. It was great storytelling. So I was a fan of that match for sure as well. But moving on to Anarchy in the Arena. That was a heavy match. But here's the one thing that was questionable was the blackface of the singer for the BCC. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that man had on his face. Somebody would say it's half mask, half paint. Why are you wearing blackface while singing Wild Thing? There's no reason. There is no reason. But going from that, I think that was a really good match as well. And the ending of the match was really, really captivating with Takeshita and Don Callis. And it just left it very, very open-ended. Like, is Takeshita and Don Callis a part of the Blackpool Combat Club now? Apparently, after the match, Kenny said something along the lines, "Oh, that exploding super kick! Oh my god, was insane." But the whole Kenny after the match, and it was off the air, he said that he had two non-AEW friends that were going to be willing to help him out. And who can those people be? Who can those people be? Is it Okada and Kota? Is it like there's so many people that they can turn to for this? But I thought that was a really, really good match as well. It was super, super violent. But I wanted to know your impressions on Anarchy in the Arena.
I honestly wasn't really over the moon about it the way you probably were, just because it was just a bunch of random and chaoticness. It wasn't like it was a bad match. It just kind of seemed like this is like a regular thing that AEW does. I think because they've done it so often. The only thing that was like, kind of cool to me is the idea of like beating someone's ass to, John Moxley's theme song. That's pretty awesome to me.
Right.
They probably had a lot of fun with that. Like it popped off to me in the beginning, and yeah, I did pop for when the singer got kicked in the face because why are you doing blackface? But I just kind of felt like I'm a little desensitized to these type of matches because it happens. I want to say almost every Double or Nothing, or at least like once, at least one of the pay-per-views has one of these chaotic matches where, it's just messy and gimmicky, and it's just something I feel like it's more exciting if you're in there and you're in the crowd because you have an opportunity to see these men up close. But I feel like as a viewer, I'm just like, okay, like, you guys kind of do this stuff often now, so it's not as
all the
like
time.
exciting as it was the first or second year. So I was just like kind of waiting for the ending to see how this was going to unravel. And like I said, just 5 minutes ago, I would have been fine if they just closed off with the pillar match, and this was
Mm.
saved for maybe like, I don't know, maybe this was like saved for like the next Dynamite or something. I just wasn't really excited, but then again, the show was so long that maybe I just felt like gassed
We were
by
all
it.
tired. Yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't bad. It's just that I just wasn't excited by the end of it. I didn't. It didn't wake me up the way that last match woke me up. It was just like, all
Yeah.
right, like can we just wrap this up already, Tony? He needs to work on that.
But I think that's about it for Double or Nothing. But we want to know your opinions on Double or Nothing. Leave a comment below. But we're gonna get right into the last two topics, and I swear we're gonna get out of your hair because this is a long show. So,
Lord.
considering everything that has been happening with WWE, there was a post that Bianca Belair had put up saying that she was on buildings in Jeddah, and the poster was just her and Roman Reigns. I think that's a big deal to have your face on an international poster representing WWE. So I wanted to know, in your opinion, is Bianca Belair the face of WWE?
Oh yeah, I feel like even without that, y'all definitely could have made that assumption by now. But she especially is, considering, the females that aren't here, that are here anymore. Like, she kind of is who they had left, but they already did such a good job building her up and having an idea of like, all right, she is kind of giving us Cena vibes, that it didn't shock me. It really doesn't shock me. Like, she is, like, again, in her Cena era, in a
Mm,
pleasant way, in a very
yeah.
pleasant way, and I'm proud of her. I'm happy for her. I knew I saw something special in Bianca when I watched her during the Mae Young Classic years ago, but I'm not sure if I would ever have thought that she would have been in the driving seat of WWE. It's just a wonderful thing to see a black woman in this role, because I don't think we ever thought we were going to see anything like this before. You know what I mean? I don't think Bianca Belair grew up as a female wrestling fan. I know she got put on from like Mark Henry and all that stuff, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it probably makes everyone that came before her, like Jazz and Jackie, and I know Naomi was there while she was there, or Alicia Fox, and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure it's putting smiles on everyone's faces, because like, these women and everything that they did added up to something.
Right.
So congratulations to her. She deserves this. Like, she works her ass off, and she's one of a kind. So shout out to you, Bianca Belair. How do you feel?
So John Cena made a very, very interesting comment years ago, and they were asking him, and I forgot what appearance it was, but they were like, can there be another John Cena? And he said no,
Mm-hmm.
because the way that WWE is set up now, because you know the product has grown so much, and because there is such a push on diversity, that there isn't going to be a singular face, that there are going to be multiple faces, because different people look up to different people. And so is Bianca the face? No. Is she a face? Absolutely. And the reason why I say that is because when we live in a culture that's driven by black culture, that's driven by black women. And so what's going to happen is WWE, and I think Bianca Belair and Montez Ford are going to work together in order for Bianca Belair and Montez Ford to be mainstream stars. And that's going to cause a spike in the black audience. I feel like there's already been a lot of people that like Bianca Belair, even if they're not heavily engaged in wrestling. Like my girlfriend, we went to WrestleMania and she was just like, I don't watch wrestling, but that shorty with the braid, that's my girl. I like her. So like you're already starting to see it, right? Like there's going to be people there's going to be people that are going to be used as bait to hook audiences in. And because of the demand of black culture and the popularity of black culture and the value of black women, I think Bianca Belair is going to be a face of WWE, and she is in her Cena era, and rightfully so, because I don't think that there's been any woman of any nationality that is having the run that Bianca has had. Um, and that and I don't think that there's going to be a lot of women who have the influence that she has, not just necessarily on wrestling culture, but on mainstream culture as well, because she just has it. So that was my little takeaway on Bianca Belair. But
Okay.
we want to know from y'all: do y'all feel like Bianca Belair is a face of WWE? Is the face of WWE? Let us know in the comments below. And to close out the show, we were talking a lot about NXT Battleground, and I feel like we need to kind of reframe our perspective. And this is something that I kind of had to think about over the weekend, which is like, was the NXT Battleground show surprising because of the product quality that NXT normally presents to us, or was it surprising because we slept on NXT? And I think it's because we slept on NXT, but I wanted to know your opinion. Did after NXT rebranded into 2.0, did the wrestling world sleep on NXT?
Most definitely. Because yeah, I remember around. How do you want to say this time last year? Was it this time last year? When did they become 2.0? Has it been a year that they've? No, it's been longer than that, right? It's been like 2 years that they've
It's
been
been
in
a little bit
2.0.
longer than that. Yeah.
2021, I want to say. Yeah, and honestly, all right, here's the issue. When it came to 1.0, there's a certain like pool of people that was into it. You know, people like the rawness of NXT. It was a little bit indie vibes, but it still kind of gave like hues of the old mixed with the new. And I
Mm-hmm.
think people just enjoy the grittiness of 1.0. Whatever they weren't getting out of watching the main roster, they could find that comfort in watching 1.0. And then when it came to the rebrand, and I think around that time, like I think Vince and Bruce Pritchard and some other people that are normally working in the main roster was kind of taking over, the direction of 2.0. It came off too polished and like it was trying too hard to be something, but we didn't quite know what it was. Are you
Right.
developmental? Are you main roster light? Like NXT used to have its own identity, and then it
Mm.
just felt like you just watch pretty much 2.0 if you're trying to see the people who are just being prepped to be on the main roster. But I think another thing that also made us feel like crap about watching 2.0 was that we noticed that not only was it not like the comfort of 1.0, but people were getting bought up from 2.0 to the main roster and they were just not being used properly. Like they
Yeah.
became afterthoughts very fast. So it's just like, why am I going to invest in watching this product if you guys aren't going to even follow up with any storylines? You're going to keep up with the way that people were presented there, here.
Mm-hmm.
We could even use Shotzi as an example. Technically, she was there from when it was 1.0, then the switch to 2.0, but they tried like stripping her down as soon as she got there and took away her tank and stuff like that. It was like little things like that I feel like irked us. And it's like, all right, well, why am I going to get myself invested into watching this if it's not going to mean anything in the long run when it gets to where it matters, which is the main roster? But it went through a lot of changes and evolutions. And I don't want to say the pay per views were ever bad for 2.0. The pay per views are actually really good. It's just the show changing so much. I think it took till now for them to find their stride, maybe months ago, 'cause I wasn't really watching. But they found like their stride in picking out talents that we enjoy seeing in terms of the tag teams, in terms of like the singles for the men, the single for the women. They kind of found like their crop of people and they finally got a division going, but they finally got like a direction as well. Where it's not as too polished as when they first presented 2.0, but it doesn't feel like it's a performance center. It feels like to me like it's its own brand. but
Yeah.
I watch it and I feel like I'm not really watching WWE. I'm watching like another branch. It's kind of weird,
Yeah.
but they found their footing, and I do agree. We all did sleep on NXT as a whole, so we get shocked every time they knock it out the park. They never had bad wrestlers. They just, again, it was choppy. It was very choppy. It was
Yeah.
unfinished. It was in the drafts. But I feel like now they got a finalized product going, and they know what they're doing with it. I don't know if it's because Sean probably has more control, because Vince did have his gritty little hands on it,
Yeah.
or if Hunter and him are working collaboration. But something feels different. How do you feel about it?
So I think something that you pointed out that I want to point out as well is that NXT has definitely had a journey, right? When NXT first kind of came out, it was seen as the developmental brand, but then it eventually developed into kind of like WWE's indie, right? A lot of independent wrestlers would come through there to get the little WWE buff and shine and then get
Yeah.
sent to the main roster. And a lot of times it wasn't it like there was a miscommunication between NXT and then the main roster because
Mhm.
in NXT it felt like an indie. So a lot of guys came in and they didn't really change. They just started hitting music cues. They started like wrestling towards the hard cam. They started being more conscious of WWE's production. But I feel like NXT 1.0 or the NXT that we all fell in love with felt like an indie with WWE production quality. Then they went into NXT 2.0, which was Vince's developmental kind of brainchild in the sense that, like, okay, 1.0, you had this brand that was like for the indie darlings, but we're gonna do stuff that's going to train the next generation of WWE superstars. So I feel like 2.0 was really about creating characters that would end up translating well into WWE's main roster, considering that one of the biggest flaws of 1.0 was that they developed them so well in NXT and they had all these great matches and they were featured in this way.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it didn't translate over to NXT 2.0 or the main roster, I should say. So NXT 2.0 felt a little bit more animated, a little bit more childish, little bit more gimmicky. And I think that that's what turned people off, especially now because it was one of those things. It was like, I don't want to watch NXT. And a lot of the guys that I watched NXT for are either on the main roster or they're in AEW. Like Adam Cole went to AEW, Johnny Gargano went to the main roster, Ciampa went to the main roster, Finn Balor's on the main roster. So it's like now there's like a bunch of guys. It's like, well, the reasons why I used to watch NXT are either on the main roster or they're in AEW. So I feel like there was this heavy fall off between 1.0 and 2.0 because it felt very, very gimmicky, childish, even down to like the color and the aesthetics. It felt a lot
Yeah.
more like it had the rainbow stuff, and it felt like Nickelodeon had having a
A
wrestling promotion,
collaboration.
if you
Yeah.
will. Yeah, literally, it felt like a cross promotion of Nickelodeon and WWE. Obviously, you had some bright spots, one of those bright spots being Mandy Rose and Toxic Attraction, but it was still very, I'm not sure about this. I don't know. And then when I feel like because during that time, Bruce Pritchard got brought in, who works very, very closely with Vince McMahon on a lot of wrestling related stuff. Once Vince retired, you saw NXT kind of begin making this transition into a brand that had a lot more balance. It was like we're going to retain the good parts of 1.0 and we're going to retain the mission of 2.0 and we're going to create like the white and gold. And that's the reason why you see like guys like the Creed brothers who were kind of developed in 2.0 have like these banger of a match because now I feel like they're given the freedom that 1.0 kind of had a little bit, and yet they still got the polish of 2.0 to kind of create this. So I feel like they've struck a balance now, but I feel like between 2.0 and now, there was such a fall off of fans that a lot of people slept. And it was like you said, they never had bad wrestlers. They never really had bad shows. But because we didn't see what we wanted to see, we just like, well, I'm just gonna go where all my favorites are. and then that's what led people kind of flocking. But I'm gonna tell you something. Cats slept on NXT because the product that they have now is actually perfect, in my opinion. I think that this is the perfect balance between a little bit of indie, a little bit of main roster polish, a little bit of the NXT UK stuff. It's all kind of blended up into like this nice little sweet medley. And it's like really, really nice. And it's just perfect. But I think that wrestling slept on NXT, mostly because of honestly the AEW effect. Once like they started kind of competing in ratings and stuff like that, I feel like people were like, "Oh, well, AEW gets more ratings, and my faves are either being misutilized on the main roster or are in
Yeah.
AEW." It's like people kind of just stopped paying attention. So, but I do think wrestling fans slept on NXT, and that's the reason why Battleground was such a big surprise to people because they were like, "How is this better than NXT?" But it's just, I mean, how is this better than AEW? But it's like if you've been
You
watching NXT, you know why.
do you
Keep
expect
going
more
though.
viewers after this?
A little bit, but not a lot, because I still feel like other sports, wrestling is very star driven. So whatever has the most stars is going to have the highest viewership. I feel like you're gonna see a little bit of boost in NXT, like, oh, they're actually really, really good, which they've always been good. But I feel like now I feel like they're just like, I don't know, they're just kind of like in this weird limbo. I feel like they need to pull like a uh if they not so that they can go back to where they were before. If they were to pull like one really, really notable star that was big on the indies, I feel like they're going to garner a lot more interest. But even without like the indie superstar, I feel like that they would only do that for the sake of viewership. I don't think they need it for the quality of the program. Like, Mello is doing his thing right now. I love what Wes Lee is doing. Even last night, like on last night's NXT, Ali was there. I thought that that was interesting.
Oh yeah, I
Uh
saw a
Bar-
report about that. What did he do?
yeah, he was there. He was there, and he was like present during the North American title match. That
Oh,
intrigues
okay.
me.
That's
That
cool.
intrigues me.
Yeah.
Wes Lee, Tyler Bate, Mustafa Ali in a North American title match. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin
Okay.
and Baron Corbin attacked Mello last night, and even though he hasn't had the hottest main roster run, he was phenomenal in NXT. That lone wolf character was some of
Yeah.
his best work. And
Hmm.
so now kind of seeing him back on NXT, I'm interested in that as well. So I don't think that they need an indie star because I feel like the stuff that they have already is quality. I don't think they need it for quality. I just think they just need it just for the a little boost in viewership.
I
We're
think they
gonna
should
see.
have some people bleed onto the main roster. But I feel like it's two things. I feel like
Mm,
A, they need to do a little more cross promoting with like
mm,
maybe just dabbling or making some small appearances of people from NXT onto the main roster, maybe on Raw, considering
okay.
Raw is super long and usually they have 1 hour worth of filler. I mean, I don't think it would kill them to show their champions and stuff like that. Because Tiffany has such a gravitating look, because a lot of people like that look
Yes.
already. Like, it wouldn't take very much to do a little itty bitty segment with her or something, or showcase the matches from the pay per view onto um, the WWE show so that like people actually would care to watch. But I also think
Mm,
that some of the great talents or talents that would normally have been pushed into our faces are injured right now, and once they come back, it's going
sure.
to pick up a little bit. Like I referenced before, Sol Roca and Nikita, they were white hot. Obviously, like you could tell that regardless when they come back, they're going to get a push. But people like that, I feel like, are going to pull in more viewers because Nikita has that look that everyone will like. Even people who don't watch wrestling are going to look at Nikita and be interested and raise an eyebrow. But Sol Roca is just so like interesting. I feel um, like once they start, these people start coming back to. I feel like things are gonna speed up, but they need to just do a little bit of just give me like a teardrop of worth of just promo of 2.0 because it's going in the right direction. It just doesn't have the numbers to back it up. Is all.
Right.
Yeah,
That makes sense for sure. I just had to check my notes to see if I had anything
you're
else
all good. We've been
to
running
add.
for nearly 2 hours,
We've
bro.
been running for a good 2 hours now. But I think that's it for today. But we want to know your We want to know your take on NXT. Has the wrestling world at large slept on NXT? But that concludes our show for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for sticking through this pod, because it's easily our longest pod we've ever done. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.